Well, there's a part 2.
During the heyday of arcade cabinets, difficulty and monetization of video games were physically intertwined. You would put a quarter in the coin slot and boom, you can play the game until you run out of lives, which was often pretty quick. For developers, the trick was to create a game that when you launched it, you would go, oh, that's so easy. The original Pac-Man is literally just one repeating level. How hard could that possibly be? Fairly hard is the answer. This was truly the first survival horror game. The ghosts are just total dickheads. Just when you think you know that the ghost thinks that you're going this way, turns out he knew you were thinking that and he went this way instead. If by some miracle you reach stage 19, you will discover that the power pellets no longer do anything. It's like at this point of the game, the ghosts just say to you, nope, you had your fun and now the game is over.
Are the ghosts faster than Pac-Man?
That demanded one knee-jerk reaction after another. I mean, look at this. Can you describe to me what is happening here? How do you play them? These were games designed to kill you fast and suck down cores, and people loved them. Then, in the mid-80s, we see the focus shifting back towards consoles. With the NES, games start to take on the structure of having a set amount of stages, and with this change, the role of difficulty is transformed. Now the challenge becomes, how do we stretch out a 30-minute game into something that will take months to complete? The solution? Just put a bunch of stupid fucking bullshit everywhere. Cheap-ass one-hit kills, oblique puzzles, broken enemy spawns, impossible jumps, enemies that constantly knock you off a ledge. Go dig up an NES and tell me how many of those games you can actually complete. None of them. Don't lie. You probably can't even beat Bubble Bobble.
Yeah, none of them. Because they're fucking hard.
Younger children make Dark Souls look like fucking...
And hard is part of the game length.
Going forward, however, games would continue to become more and more approachable as developers found out that people actually like to win. Red Dead 2 is a great modern example of this. The game aims your gun for you, it steers your horse for you, it practically plays itself, and despite all of this, it is the most critically acclaimed game this year. Is it so wrong that people want to play a game without getting their dick knocked off every 2 seconds? No, I don't think so. Not every game needs to be some death march, but when you try to have it both ways, you run into problems. Selectable difficulties are commonly achieved by simply giving enemies more health and damage, but in the back of my mind I'm always wondering how much should they have. Halo 3 is the first game in the series that tells you heroic is how the game is meant to be experienced. It just straight up says, hey, this is the real one. Those other ones are fake. If only they told me this back in Halo 2. COD 4 tells you that on regular, your abilities in combat will be tested, which if a dog picked up a controller with his mouth, that might be right. Veteran, though, is actually pretty accurate. Okay, we got 2 grenades in here. That's okay, now there's another one. Alright, oh, there's and my own guy just picked up a grenade and threw it next to me. Okay, now there's another grenade. We just gotta chuck that. Okay, now we just gotta wait for the flashbang to wear off. What killed me? When the difficulty is this blatantly artificial, it trivializes your achievements. Some games do put in more effort though. For Silent Hill 2, the easier difficulties cause the puzzles to make 4% more sense.
What?
This year's Mega Man 11 is full of any put in more cause the puzzle. The easier difficulties cause the puzzles to make 4%.
The easier difficulties cause the puzzle to make 4% more sense. The fuck did I just hear?
More sense.
Oh, it's a joke.
This year's Mega Man 11.
Stop joking in my serious videos.
Shit, you have this part.
Hot Pocket.
And then there's this part. And then we got this classic part. These severe jumps in difficulty are just the result of poor design. Ideally, a game should get progressively harder as you play.
I agree.
Most of them are like... Then you got Kirby. Then you got Donkey Kong Country, which is like, alright, we're gonna hit you with some difficulty bumps, and then you get the K. Rool. This is where the game goes from tough but fair to tough
in the
but
fucking crowd, man.
You're gonna lock me in hell fuck with a fucking Hitler.
I don't remember that.
Please give me some decent
I remember it from Smash.
Come on. Undoubtedly, the cruelest part of
Forsen
games is how when you lose, they will just kick you all the way back to the start. Even some of the hardest NES titles like Castlevania and Ninja Gaiden would have the courtesy of only knocking you back to the start of the stage when you got hit off a ledge by a guy who spawned in midair that you already killed. Without checkpoints, you force players to repeat large chunks of a video game, which is not only irritating but fatal to to the overall pacing. On the other hand, saturate your game with checkpoints and you lose that anxious feeling which makes challenging games so tense. The iconic bonfires of Dark Souls are not only a much-needed reprieve, but a glowing beacon of your progress in a game whose atmosphere is dishearteningly oppressive. Meanwhile, Resident Evil 1, which is a game where doors take 17 minutes to open, requires you to use an equipment item every time you want to save.
17 minutes.
Fighting games are in a tricky spot where if you play against the computer, and this is on the hardest difficulty, keep in mind, they are just incapable of winning. Then you hop online and you fight this guy. Team games like Overwatch and Call of Duty lower the bar for entry considerably.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to
pick up your slack and
to talk about any
just blame your team when you lose
multiplayer games. It is not even part of it.
Game sucks, not my fault. Many players
multiplayer will always be the most difficult because you're playing actual players.
For me, that game was Bloodborne. When I played this in 2015, I couldn't even get past the first boss. It wasn't until last year that I actually figured out how simple these games are. Not to suggest it's easy, just simple. It's just dodge and hit. And once you understand that it's dodge and hit, then you realize that the game means shit. Pac. I think it's always better to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Take Ikaruga. This game is just ridiculous. What you're staring
Bloodborne
at
was
here
pretty
is, of
easy
course,
for me.
hard difficulty.
True.
Now, let's turn it down to easy. Alright. Now this makes it much. It doesn't pull punches, yet if you go into the settings, it allows you to have infinite lives. Now you may ask, how can a game be challenging when you can't even technically lose?
What do you...
Like this. I died so many times on that first run through that at one point I thought I might run out of infinite lives. It was merely the first step, and on subsequent playthroughs I would go, oh wow, only 68 deaths this time. Oh wow, 50, 20, 13. Each time I returned to the game, I understood it a little bit better. Just like the 80s coin apps that inspired it, the idea of accomplishment doesn't stem from beating the game, but rather mastering it. The thing about difficult games is that they tend to grow on you, but is it the challenge that makes them so exciting, or rather the artistry hiding beneath? Pac.
Oh well.